Hey guys, Jason from Strictly Broken back again with another deck profile. This week we're going to be looking at Frieren. We're going to be looking at the other pants combo for Frieren, so it's still 8 pants. This is going to be the Fern level 1 combo into the TD Frieren. This is the deck that's probably more popular in Japanese right now compared to the Double R booster, which I'm more fond of. While I'm not the biggest fan of this combo, I think this combo has a lot of merit, and there's definitely good reasons to choose this one over the booster. Notably, I don't like that this has like a whole package that you have to play to make it work or to have like it be a real draw, but that is perfectly fine, and I do want to talk about it, so we're going to go through this. So first card is going to be our level 0 Fern. She is on play. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck. You may put them back on top of your deck in any order and send as many as you want to the waiting room. So it's like the Mio drop search from Hololive, but instead of being a drop search, it is a red reverse bomb. So perfectly fine. It helps kill a lot of things. I was playing this because there was a lot of people that were telling me that they didn't like playing the 4/1/1 events as their only red, that it was a little too hard to like get the color. So I was trying the red stuff. I tried both this and the Stark Oversize. Very perfectly fine card, no problem there. I ended up just preferring the utility of the Fern Mocha of the two, but personally I would probably still go back to playing just 4 raw red events and then using the extra 3 slots here, because I'm only going to be on 3 red events here. Using the extra 3 slots just to kind of beef up my level 0 in one game, because you had to skimp on a couple cards to fit this in, and I didn't really like that. But nonetheless, this card does its job very well. The Mocha is really nice. It helps fill our graveyard faster, get through our first deck a little bit faster, and then Fern actually contests basically any level 0 that isn't +1 level. Very nice. Big fan. Was doing well, more than well enough in testing to where I can definitely vibe with playing it if you wanted to give up the slots for it. Next, we have our level 0 Himmel. This is our first part of the package for the level 3 combo. He is on death. You may choose a character in your hand, put it into your clock. Let's choose a character. Sorry, choose a card in your hand and put it into your clock. And then when you do, send this to your memory. And then search your deck for any on-trait character. Add it to your hand. And then this will be the part of the condition for your Brainstorm, which is the whole TD package. This card's fine. It cuts into our Ricky count, which I don't really like. We have to only play 2 serier, where normally I was playing 3 and looking at playing 4 in the TD booster. This card also works as a clock self-search. You can do it during main phase by negging one, which I don't really like doing, but you can, and you kind of have to sometimes if you know the deck you're playing against is playing bombs, and they want to make sure you don't have this card on your board. Because this card getting stifled early does kind of make it hard to resolve later, where you have to take like some pretty stinky turns to do it. But nonetheless, this card is perfectly fine. It's a stockless way to search for cards, which is pretty nice. It was fine. I don't really love it, but it did its job as part of the package. The next part of the package is our level 0 Run Brainstorm. This is a TD, pay 1, tap 1, draw Brainstorm for 5, check 5 cards. And then the other important reason we play this card is actually its second effect, which is while this Himmel is in your memory, if you are level 3, you can sacrifice this from your board. If you do, to play the 3/2 Frieren combo from your hand without paying its stock cost. So it's kind of like the Kawakami plus Joker from Persona 5, which is pretty old, but that's the first thing I thought of when I thought of this card. Really, really cool, actually. This was the card that I liked the most from the package and was like why I was really sold on it. It also gives the Frieren hexproof, which is very strong. If you expect a lot of defensive counters, you see a lot of like Hololive with tap counters and stuff, you can make it very hard to interact because you only need to resolve like 2 of these. And then suddenly, if your opponent has like tap counter, they can't interact with your board. You can very reasonably resolve 3 of these as well when you have the extra stock. Thanks to like the 1/1 event and stuff, where you can just kind of use these as a neg 1 hand to free play your card. And then you can actually, if you have the extra stock, obviously these can Brainstorm first. They don't have to be standing. So really, really nice card. Considering it's a draw Brainstorm, it's fine. It works well enough. We do still play the Fern Brainstorm as well to complement this card because we don't really want to see a lot of these early. But they are nice, and they are also a way for us to get extra climaxes when we're not triggering pants and stuff. Speaking of, we do play 2 of the Fern Brainstorm. Fern Brainstorm, great card, big fan of it. It is up to thrice per turn when you play an event. You can look at the top 2 cards of your deck and rearrange them. That works during either player's turn, so because our events have counters on them, We can do that during the opponent's turn to kind of like scam a cancel or kind of maybe fix our draw if we see a climax, etc. And then it is a tap self-salvage Brainstorm. Perfectly fine card. Big fan of it. I like it a lot. I said a lot about it. If you wanted to hear that, you can hear me gush about more about this card in the Double R Booster video. I don't have too much more to say about it here, though. I do just like the card a lot, though. Next, we have our level 0 Frieren. This card is on play. Discard a card from your hand. If you do, look at the top, up to the top 4 cards of your deck. Add a level 1 or higher card from among them to your hand. So this grabs our events. This grabs a level 1 combo. It grabs everything that isn't our zeros, basically. But because Freeman is such an event-heavy deck, that is super duper relevant. I'm a very big fan of this card. This is one of my favorite cards in Freeman, and I was very excited when it came out. I also gushed a lot about this in the other video, but this is called usually technically it's a Fuka in that it checks level 1 or higher, but it's an on-play Fuka. Some people call that an Azusef for 1 or higher, whatever mouthful you want to put it. But it's a check 4 for 1 or higher. This card's really, really good. Don't get to play a lot of it because, again, we're playing the Fern, so it kind of eats into our 0 slots. And in general, this whole 6-card package here also eats into our zeros, where I would normally be playing a beefed up count of a lot of our utility cards. We have to skimp a bit. Speaking of a card we have to skimp on, we have our level 0 Serier. This is otherwise known as a Ricky, otherwise more officially. Pay 1, clock the top card of your deck. If you do, search your deck for a level 1 or lower character, add it to your hand. And then she is an event swapper, so pay 1, discard an event to choose an event in your waiting room, add it to your hand. Second effect is super niche. First effect is the main reason we play this card. It's a pay 1, clock 1, +1. Grabs our combo, grabs our zeros. Great card. I really wanted to play more of this. I was actually thinking about going just 2 of the Himmel and then 3 of this, and just kind of making the Himmel like a worse turn or a card you just kind of crash and accept that it's going to be a bad turn, because I really liked this card more than the Himmel. Just a thing to think about. This card is overall pretty fine. Can't grab events and stuff, obviously, but the event swap does come up every now and then, especially in this deck. I think the event swap, going back to this, the event swap actually comes up more in this deck than in the Double R Booster, because this deck has a lot more stock to play with going into its level 3 turn, to where you can very reasonably find events, and then if you have this in your hand, if you have the hand resources, you can play this down, swap to make sure we get the stock swap or the other events that we play. We do play another really cool event in this deck that I will talk about, so being able to help get back card is also really nice. The next card we play is the level 0 Frieren with the skull. This card is an on-play ditch character or event salvage. Ditch climax or event salvage, not character. Really, really good card. Again, we have a lot of events. We have a couple more brick events in this deck than we do in the other deck. So being able to discard those, and if we don't have the color for the 1/1 event, we can discard that for the salvage as well. Or ditch our climaxes. We are playing 8 pants after all. Being able to discard those is really nice. Not much to say there. It's just an extra utility on a ditch CX salvage, which is just nice for Freeman. And then finally, we have our 1 of climax swapper. Normally, I want to be playing 2 of this, but for space, I couldn't. It's just a level 0 bottom deck bomb and a waiting room climax swapper. So pay 1, discard a climax, grab a climax from your waiting room. Perfectly fine card. It does its job. At 1 of, I find it a little hard to see, and sometimes the sculpting for it is a little more cringe. But you still got to play at least 1 of it, no matter what. Next, onto our level 1s, we have our level 1 Fern combo. This combo is on play of the climax. If you have the pants climax in the climax area, choose either of the 2 events, either the 1/1 or the 1/0 event. These here. And add them to your hand from your waiting room. So it doesn't search your deck, unfortunately, but it does still get them. That's why we play 7. In the other deck, I play 8 because I have more space to do so. But with 7, you should reasonably be able to get some combination of them and not have to think about it. And the card is also, if you have 2 or more other trait characters, she is a 6k always. So just good text. Always 6k is super nice. We do play an extra counter as well to complement that. Sometimes this card accidentally does just live being 6k, so we don't scoff at that at all. Next, we have our events. Our first event is going to be the Flight Magic event. This is just a torch, so you can only play this if you have a weapon or magic character on the board. Or is it only a magic character, actually? No, weapon or magic doesn't matter. So yeah, if you have either trait character, you can use it. And then it's just a check 4, add a character. It's fine. Just a good event, extra deck speed. Obviously, Fern picks this up. So I just want to say there has the counter, so it's torch, so you can use it on your opponent's turn defensively, and then use that with your Fern Brainstorm to get the rearrange where relevant. And then we play the Magic to Find Lost Things event. We only play 3 in this deck because, again, we do play the red cards in this, so we need to make the extra room. This is just a 1/1 draw drop salvage. So you do the draw drop, which is kind of nice because you can sometimes draw into the card you want to salvage anyway. Or you can like rearrange with other events beforehand. Maybe you see the climax, you rearrange the climax at the top, draw drop the climax, which is huge. I've done that a lot. And then you get to salvage a card. Usually you're salvaging level 1 Fern combos because this deck is a loop level 1 combo into its mid-game kind of deck. We do play an extra mid-game card that we didn't play before, which is cool. But really big fan of this card, though. This is one of my favorite events. I think this card is insanely good in practice, more so than on paper than it reads, and really helps the deck flow well. And especially in this deck, I will admit, big benefit to this deck that I did like was that this card feels a lot easier to just kind of play all the time because your deck is so much lighter on stock. So going into that, we are now on our last level 1. This is just a 1/1 mill counter. Again, really, I've said it before, but it's good for Macross. It's a 2500 counter, I believe. 2k counter. 1/1 2k counter, but it mills the bottom X card of your opponent's decks, where X is your magic characters. So if you play against Macross, which in English, when this comes, by the time this comes out, I believe, or like soon after this comes out, we will have Macross, and that deck will be relevant. This just stunts Macross completely. Also works as like a pseudo decompression tool. Can mill it if your opponent triggers a climax and they're trying to put a climax back into their deck. You can just mill the cards, and they miss 2 climaxes that they might have been able to pay out otherwise, or even just 1. It almost becomes like a 1-stock Fumio, quote unquote. It's fine. It does this job. I like it more than the bottom deck one, even if that one is more power, just because I like the utility mill on this card, because Freeman's decompression tools are a bit more scarce, so you need to get it where you can get it. Now we have our PR Frieren Bouncer. We still don't know if this card will be in English, I believe. I said something similar in the Oshinoko one, where that one did get announced. So maybe closer to Freeman's release, we'll get an announcement for this coming out as well. This is on play. Choose one of your characters, give it a soul, and then you can sacrifice this to bounce one of your opponent's characters. This card is super duper good. Helps you beat win lanes that you shouldn't win by just bouncing the opponent back. Because sometimes, like for standby, it's great. When it helps you contest board, you can bounce like the back row power pumps and stuff, and helps you dodge defensive counters. Like if you can't, if they're playing like money counter, like the anti-damage events, and you can't win all 3 lanes with hexproof, we can just open a lane up for 1 stock and then go with 2 hexproofs and do it that way. Overall, just a great card. It comes up so often. The +1 soul means that you could potentially also side level 3s for 1 where you need to as well. Really, really nice. And then we have our anti-change bomb. So this is on reverse your opponent's character. If the character that this gets reversed by is higher level than your opponent's character, you may send that character to the bottom, or higher level than your opponent, send it to the bottom of your deck. And then this is on attack. Choose one of your characters, give it 1500 power times the number of events in your waiting room. So because we play, I want to say it's 11 events, that's like a whole ton of power, 16,500 power max that can give onto something. So you can like use this to help you win 2-3 lanes. Like you can go like this plus a Fern, like bounce 1, play down double Fern, 1 in the open lane, 1 in another lane, anti-change bomb something, and then have Fern be mega big and scale the other one. So you get like, you can just clear a bunch of lanes and like stick cards like that, which is super duper huge. It helps you scam a lot of mid game where you're not favored to be winning the mid game, and just like stick the extra and like push the extra damage. Really, really good card. Big fan of this card. I actually played 2 of it in my other list, but for space reasons, again, we had to cut it to 1. Still works perfectly good as a 1-of. Another part of how Freeman ends up breaking a lot of boards in the formats, and why this card will be good in any board-based format, will be good in any board-based format, is the 2-0 event. This is the, I believe it's magic to make grapes sweet or whatever. I don't remember exactly. But card is super sick. It is, when you play this, choose one of your opponent's characters, level it down. So they take a character, the character on the board that you target, goes to the waiting room, and then as long as that character is level 1 or higher, you can't target anything below, you can't target zeros, but you can target 1 or higher characters. They send it to waiting room, and then choose a character whose level is X or lower, where X is the level of the card -1, and put it onto the board in that card slot. So if you target a 3, they can put a 2, 1, or 0 on the board, and then this card goes to your stock. So it helps break the boards by making them have to play down worse characters that are probably easier to scale. Sometimes, if your opponent doesn't think about it, they can end up playing into you siding as well with your level 3 combos and stuff. You can go like hit their card and they go, oh, haha, I'll play my level 2. And then, or I'll play my level 1, and then all of a sudden you get a side for 1 or a side for 2, where maybe you didn't before. Does come up. Usually, if you're playing against this, the right thing, if you know that's like an actual, if you think about that and that's an actual thing, you should just put like a 0, like a utility 0 or something in that slot to just try to get value out of it. But just little thing to think about. This card is just really good. Again, Frieren, for being an 8-1k1 deck that just wants to slam cards, thanks to these cards, it's actually very adept at breaking boards, which I really, really appreciate about this deck a lot. Because I think that's like a big problem that a lot of 1k1 decks have currently, is they can't really break boards. They just kind of push through them with damage. I don't like that. I do like being able to try to answer my opponent's boards where possible. On to our next event, we have the 2/4 Zoltraak event. This is a 2/4. Deal 3 damage to your opponent's character, to your opponent. Very simple. Just zap for 4 damage. 2/4. So ideally, if we have 6 stock, we have 2 brainstorms, we can go sack a brainstorm, play a Frieren, sack a brainstorm, play a Frieren, pay 2 stock for a Frieren, check, and they also check 3 odd one play, which is really good. Hopefully can find this, and then we can use that extra 4 stock to just zap our opponent for 3 damage. I think I said 4 damage before, but yeah, 3 damage, which just helps make our finisher a little bit better. Our finisher is a very straightforward finisher. It doesn't really do anything flashy. So getting the extra 3 where we can is fine. In practice, I don't get to use this very often. A lot of times this ends up being complementary to like double Freeman, where I can't get the 3rd. So this becomes like my 3rd shot, which it goes. So I go like vanilla attack plus a burn 3, and then 4, and then swing, combo. It's fine. I really like it in this deck. Unplayable in the double R deck because you just don't have the stock to play this and do your combos. But in this deck, definitely a lot more real. This could also be the defensive counter from the TD. They have a full board anti-damage counter. My problem ends up being a lot of time is winning board, and the fact that either Freeman level 3 from the booster heals, which makes money better, or the anti-damage better, but it can't win board as easily without just only doing mochas. This deck can win board a lot more easily because it is hexproof and because it gets power on its combo. However, that deck wants to try to finish the game because it doesn't heal, so the money counter isn't going to save you very often in comparison. So double-edged sword, where I feel like the money doesn't really fit very well on either deck. Probably better in double R booster all the same though, because it can randomly just win lane if you get a hit to 3 first, so you can go like heal, do your combos for cheap, and then sit on money and then try to like maybe combo again the next turn. Next we have our 3/1 flower event. It is a stock shuffle optionally and a salvage. So, which is really nice. You take your opponent's stock, put it into their deck, and then put cards equal to the amount shuffled back into their stock, face down, so it's blind. So you randomly just decompress your opponent. If you know your opponent has a bunch of clean stock, it can almost never be worse to do, because the chance you hit something is just there, and you decompress them any amount as long as you have the 1 stock. Again, this deck has the 1 stock more often than not to spend on this. So you will just kind of do this, and then also digs for this card, which is really nice since you have the check 3 add one. Yeah, it's just really nice card. The salvage also just works well with making sure you have extra copies of the Frieren or the Brainstorm. Just very, very good card. Next, we have our level 3 early play Frieren. This card is an EP if you have 6 or more events in your waiting room. She is, what is the exact text on this card? If you have 2 or more other weapon or magic characters, she is a 10/5 with Handon Core. And she is a ditch 1 heal to stock. So you can tell I'm not familiar with the card. I don't get to play this card very often, if I'm going to be honest with you. I think this card is like super duper, like okay at best. I just like don't really find a lot of time to play this card. This deck can play this better because you have the stock. I think I would consider trying to find room for 1 of it in double R just to have it, because I think having the option was nice when it came up. But yeah, it's just a 10-5 body. The condition can be a little hard to have 6 or more events. There's a lot of times where you kind of just have it and you just don't have enough events or ways to put it, and you don't want to like play cards to mill events, because then it kind of defeats the purpose of why you wanted to play this card to begin with, to just be like a one stock EP that you can save. Can this ditch? This can also ditch. Oh, is this ditch event or climax? Oh, it is. It's ditch event or climax Handon Core. That's crazy, because actually never gotten to use the Handon Core effect on this card. This card just comes down to be a one stock healer and then die. Very cool that it has that though, since you do have the events combo as well with the Fern. Just overall, pretty low performing card. Would still consider it just for the one stock EP healer all the same though. Although I do think Frieren does not need it, because Frieren is very proficient, as I said, at breaking the board with its other cards, to where I don't think I really need an EP to contest board. But it's there, for sure. And because we can't really play we could probably play the yellow one, because we do have the Brainstorm for yellow, but I don't want to have to level that card, because I believe that is my only yellow. So, not really interested, even though I think that is a much better early play altogether. And then finally, we have our level 3 combo Freeman. She is on play. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck and add one to your hand. And she is climax combo with the other pants to ditch 2, burn 4, and then give one of your characters 2,000 power. So she doesn't have to give it to herself. So if your opponent has like one big lane, you can go combo buff itself, and then win that lane, which is really nice. Part of what kind of made the money counter seem appealing at first, but in practice just wasn't that good, because again, you don't heal. Because this digs, it means you get to play our extra utility events very reasonably with these two, or we can potentially end up getting the level down event, which turns into a hand to stock when we have the extra stock hand, which can help fix some of our extra stock problems if we run low. What I will say, while I don't love this combo as much as the booster, because I think the booster being versatile in how you get to pick between the 3 effects, where this is just a raw burn 4, this is a lot better as a Hail Mary. This is, the game goes bad, at the very worst, I can probably slam this card if my hand is at least even somewhat decent. We can probably at least double, maybe even still triple, because like you have one draw brainstorm on the board, triple is 4 stock. If you just get the pieces. And obviously it digs for the climax if you don't have it. It digs for the events if you don't have them. And then you just kind of Hail Mary your opponent with a bunch of 4s and swings for 3s and 4. It definitely does get there in some times, or like it puts your opponent in a position where like maybe they hit 3 or like high 2 and they're not in a position to really do anything because they didn't expect it, because you just kind of ate damage beforehand. Maybe you scam a turn of like vanilla swings where you get to actually live, because maybe you went to like 3-0 and you're just like, well, I can just kind of throw damage at their face and do it that way with hexproof cards they can't interact with. And then you tell your opponent to pick up the pieces afterwards. The problem is, if they can kill this card, your finishing potential on the next turn is still pretty limited all the same. But because they don't spend stock, you could potentially pay 3 Encore for one of these, or like if you have any extra hand and you have any extra of these in your hand, you could play another one down, etc. It's fine. It's low commitment, low resource to do its thing. The commitment ends up coming from the deck building itself, where it asks you to play the Brainstorm and the Himmel to be able to play this card for a lot cheaper. Otherwise, it's the same amount if you don't have those set up, it's going to be the same amount of stock to triple and the same amount of hand to burn, except the double R booster is more modular and doesn't have to burn. And that's where this card falls short. If you don't get to resolve the package, I think this card is like pretty bad. But with the package, it becomes significantly better and more appealing. I would still prefer the booster, but I think this card is competitively viable and will be very relevant in the format, because some people just prefer the simplistic Hail Mary. I don't want to have to think or feel like bad that I picked the wrong decision. This card is probably better in like a longer tournament environment, in that you do the thing and you say, take the 4, please. Kind of like the SDS and stuff, where you can just play the event, do the burn, and then just go 4-4-4 and just ask it to stick. Which definitely its own appeal, for sure. Overall, though, guys, that is this deck. That is the TD booster top end. I did promise people I would talk about this deck, because this is like the other contentious, like top tier version of Frieren. Frieren is probably my favorite set going into the next format that I will not get to play with because it won't be out for any of the events I'm going to. But I do hope people pick it up and maybe look at this video as a resource for building their decks, and maybe they get to do well with it. I do think this deck will do well in English. I think this deck does well in Japanese. I'm a very big fan of the series, big fan of the set, and just hope I kind of inspire more people to look at the set and play it. If you have any questions for me, as always, you can find me on Twitter and or Discord at Prinz_WS. That's PRINZ_WS. Feel free to ask me any questions. Give me a follow on Twitter, etc. I'm always around and available, willing to talk. Other than that, please do feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have any questions, you can also leave them down below in the comments and I will get to you. If you have any other sets you want me to go over that I can do within my power, I'm starting to run low on the decks I own that are like English relevant, so I might have to start delving into doing either the like PGH Weiss style PowerPoint slide, or maybe we just do the faster way and just do the encore decks and just start going through them. Whichever one you guys would prefer to see when it gets to decks where I don't have them, please feel free to let me know. Next week we will probably look at either Kanatamume or Shauna. So look forward to that, guys, and you guys have a great rest of your day.